Hello ladies and gentlemen, this is Blue Maxima. We checked out Ace Combat 3 last week and now it's Ace Combat 6 because I guess I'm just on that kind of a train lately. Don't worry, next week we'll be doing something that's a little bit more somnium, let's just say. Anyway, Ace Combat 6 is basically Ace Combat 4, so I really like it. I know that sounds a little bit strange, but I played through Ace Combat 4 not that long ago. It was a couple of years, but I can still remember the broad strokes of it. And Ace Combat 6 is just Ace Combat 4. A ton of the missions are really similar to each other. The plot is laid out in a relatively similar way, in which it's like you're just some random dude up in the air having these fights, and then the cutscenes in between about some characters who aren't entirely irrelevant, but also have basically no connection to you as a character whatsoever. The plot ends with you taking on a gigantic super weapon with a choir going on in the background. There's a bunch of other missions that just meet one for one with similar missions from Ace Combat 4. They've added a couple of other things like multiplayer, which I wasn't able to play for reasons we'll get to shortly. You have the ability to buy planes, which have different missile and special weapon loadouts. Although, was that in Ace Combat 4? God, it has been a while, hasn't it? But outside of that, it really is just kind of another take on Ace Combat 4. I wonder if they were trying for a sort of golden trilogy a la 450, but because Ace Combat 6 didn't do so well, they ended up shelving the entire idea. Or, well, not even that, but they went for, Assault Horizon, which did not do well whatsoever. And then they ended up having to, shelve the idea of doing a second golden trilogy until they were able to get together the money to make 7. And now they're making 8. So, anyway, that's completely irrelevant to the game we're talking about right now. Ace Combat 6 is basically Ace Combat 4, but that means it's Ace Combat 4, so it's still great. Honestly, I don't know why this one stayed so hardcore to the Xbox 360. It's been there this entire time. You can technically play it on Xbox One via backwards compatibility. However, Xbox 360 emulation has actually been coming along quite well, because this is the emulated version of Ace Combat 6. I'm doing it on Xenia Canary, and you can get through the game end-to-end, but it does have a few problems. The main one is one that's on screen pretty much at all times. You've got these weird triangles that are missing from the terrain throughout the entire game. There's a very few minor instances where this doesn't happen, like certain bodies of water, which are one giant, just flat surface. But if there's any sort of elevation difference in the terrain at all, it's probably going to have triangles missing, which is very odd. I don't know what causes that sort of thing. Obviously, it's an emulation problem, but it's just very odd that they managed to do, 80% of the terrain, but then every tile just has a triangle missing from it. It's very strange to me. There are a couple of other problems as well, which you may notice throughout this video. Like, for example, certain smoke samples will be incredibly low resolution, although I kind of get a kick out of that for reasons that I cannot explain, so I don't find that to be that much of a problem. The other main issue is that the cutscenes actually lose audio. You'll hear them start up for a few seconds and they'll work fine, and then you'll just hear them go, and then the audio will just stay like that for the entirety of the cutscene, which is not great, I will admit, but it's fine. It doesn't really get in the way of the game. The cutscenes don't crash or anything. You can just hit the start button to skip them and it won't be a problem. And outside of that, the game seems to play absolutely fine. I played through the entire campaign on hard in 2 nights, and it worked, for the most part. Just ignoring everything that I mentioned previously, it works. So if you want to play Ace Combat 6 and you can't get your hands on an Xbox One or an Xbox 360 or an Xbox Series X or whatever, feel free to try this. It works pretty well. But yeah, as I said, Ace Combat 6 is basically Ace Combat 4. You're a random guy who's just an absolutely fantastic pilot. You go on missions. You shoot down a bunch of people. Sometimes there's a couple of super weapons you have to worry about. But they actually added a few things in Ace Combat 6 that I really like, and I do not remember these being a thing in 7. The main thing is that a lot of the missions in this game are operation-based, where you've got a bunch of different fights going on across the landscape, and you can go to them individually and help them out individually, and that'll free them up to help you out later in the mission. and you have to decide who you're going to help first. Are you going to help the air squad who'll follow you along and do some really cool things for you with allied attacks? Are you going to help take over that airport because it means that you can resupply easier than needing to backtrack to the western side of the field? It creates these really interesting little choices. It's not like massively complicated. It basically just says to you, right, take along this special weapon first and then restock and get another special weapon whenever you get the opportunity to take on the next mission. But it's interesting, and it's really helped out by the fact that you've got some actually really intelligent AI. Like, genuinely, they will help out. You will still be getting like 2/3 to 3/4 of the kills, but they will actually like do their job. They will get on without you if there isn't that much to worry about in their way. It actually makes it viable for you to like pop back and forth between places. Just take out a little bit and let them take care of the rest themselves. It's actually entirely reasonable. Even your wingmen will help you out by firing off missiles at things, and you'll actually get to see them shoot down stuff every now and again. You're still an absolute god pilot, but everybody else is not actually useless. And even after playing something like Ace Combat 7, where I didn't really notice this being a thing, at least from memory, having this be a thing in Ace Combat 6 is actually something I really like, because it means that you guys just don't feel absolutely useless. This is definitely not like Ace Combat 4 or 5 levels where you have to do basically everything yourself, or it's not like Ace Combat 3 where they'll hold their own, but you still need to help them out from time to time. No, this feels like an actual battle. This feels like you're just driving a wedge in two people that are actually trying to kill each other. It works. It works really well, and one of the most important things about Ace Combat is not the gameplay, although that does matter. It's the atmosphere. It's about being in the middle of this gigantic battle between two warring factions and feeling like they're actually trying to kill each other, but you're there to make the difference. And it works. And as a result, this is probably one of my favorite Ace Combat games, just because of that little bit of a system alone. Being able to decide where you need to go, what you need to do, and how you're going to go about it with all of these operation-style missions just works really well for me. Not to mention the fact that you've got this really neat little allied attack and allied cover system, which actually ties back into this, because the more of your dudes that you've freed up when you go and do other operations, the more effective this will be. So you just basically look at something and hold up on the D-pad or down on the D-pad. And when you do, you will cause an allied attack when you hold up, which will put targeting reticles on everything in sight, and all of your friends will fire a Macross missile massacre directly at everything that you've got in sight and just flatten them. So if there's something you're having particular trouble with, or you can't be bothered to deal with that particular ground battalion, just go in, hold the up on the D-pad, boom, they're all dead, and it's actually kind of awesome to watch. And you've also got allied cover, which is basically you hold down on the D-pad and everything that's too close by is going to get a face full of Macross missile massacre. And it also works, not as effectively as allied attack, but if you feel like you're getting chased down by something that's a bit too strong for you, works like a charm. You can also order your pilot to be on the attack or to cover you, which is nice, but I never found it to be too particularly difference-making, although I only played on hard. Because notably, this game's got 2 extra difficulties above hard, Ace of Aces and Expert, one of which, the earlier of which I should say, was actually DLC, which doesn't work in this version of the game because it's on Xenia, so you can't get online. I don't know how to actually make that DLC work, so I didn't do it. I just stuck with hard, and I had a good time. Also helps that the game's got mid-mission checkpoints now, although some of them are very awkwardly placed. Like, for example, the one where you have to go and attack the heavy command cruiser halfway through the game, where you have to come up from below it. Notably, you get the mid-mission checkpoint when you've only got like 2 hits left to do. Otherwise, it's replay the entire mission again, which is like a 10-minute slog against 5 different aerial battleships, and that's just really bloody annoying. But most of the time, the checkpoint positioning actually makes sense. Also means that you don't have to go around and do all the different operations again, which is nice. It's actually quite nice. What else is there? I love Shamrock. Shamrock is great. I love Shamrock. He is, he's an absolute dweeb in the way that he talks, but I love the dude. He's not cool in the slightest. He genuinely feels like a man that's kind of out of his element the entire time, but he feels like your buddy. It feels like flying with the Raspberries in Ace Combat 5, except it's just one dude. And I enjoyed pretty much everything he had to say, and his story is really, well, I probably shouldn't say anything, because that would be spoilers, and there are actually still ways to play this game. So yeah, let's not go any further than that. Just, yeah, I like Garuda too. He's a fun guy to listen to. All of the in-mission dialogue is actually good to listen to as well. Again, it sells that theme. It sells that atmosphere. Same thing with the little windows that you get that show you, like, all the different planes and whatnot. They're all bloody, they're all really cool as well. Just getting these fancy little things of the dudes you're targeting, or the communication windows of guys who are talking to you. Again, it just gives the game a little bit more personality. All the different planes are cool. They've introduced a couple of new movement tricks as well, mainly being able to hold the brake and accelerate in order to do high G turns. I'm pretty sure this wasn't in 5. I'd like to think I would have noticed, because the amount of times I wanted to do high G turn in that is something else. But yeah, like, I've got nothing but positives here. Maybe the, like, stories of the people outside of the war aren't as interesting, but then again, that was kind of a flaw of Ace Combat 4 as well. The most interesting group in the outside group there is the tank crew, but outside of that, yeah, they're not that interesting to listen to, which I guess makes the fact that I didn't actually watch many of the cutscenes not being that big of a deal, but hey, you know, what do they say? Minor blessings with major curses or something? I don't know. The game's about 16 missions long, although you do have, like, extra reasons to go back and play the campaigns again. Being able to choose, like, your spawn point and tackle most of the operations in a different order is good. It's also got one of the best missions in the entire series in the form of weapons of mass destruction, and if you haven't seen that yet and you don't plan on playing this, feel free to go watch it on YouTube. It's Mission 12, I believe. I won't say anything more other than that, but if you actually do plan on playing this, go into that blind. It's a hell of a lot of fun. So, yeah, like, what else do I have to say about Ace Combat 6 other than I really like it? It doesn't even have missile every 2 bloody seconds like Ace Combat 7 does. It's just a really good Ace Combat game. I don't know why it's never come to other platforms. Like, even with the, you know, they brought Ace Combat 5 to PS4 with the PS2 emulation. They brought Ace Combat 6. I don't know why they didn't think to port them all to PC or something. But, yeah, there you go. I don't got much else to say. Oh, yeah, the briefing screens, where they show you, like, this little real-time, well, not so much real-time, but accelerated time version of you flying around with all your different allied planes and taking on everything, and watching the little blips disappear from the screen is so satisfying in this game. It's immensely cathartic to just rewatch everything you've just done over the course of the last 20 minutes happen in about 20 seconds. It's so good. In the same way that Super Meat Boy does it, right? Where you get to watch the last 30 minutes of you repeatedly dying just being overlaid on top of the screen. It's the same sort of catharsis that brings, and it's good shit. It's real good shit. So yeah, Ace Combat 6, highly recommended, thoroughly enjoyed it. It's the same old Ace Combat gameplay, but they've given it a few tweaks and they all work really well in my opinion. I like the wingmen. I like some of the things they got going on here, and it's just, it was fun to play all the way through, except for maybe like 1 or 2 missions. So, yeah. Wholeheartedly enjoyed, would highly recommend. With that said, this has been Blue Maxima. I'll see you all next time.
ESM is active. I've got something on radar. That's odd. Multiple small objects flying at slow speed through the airspace.
Whatever. Small, big, bring on.
Other aircraft are... Wait a minute. Warning, cruise missiles incoming. All planes break.
What? Missile hit, 3 o'clock. All aircraft stay sharp. Look out.
missiles used to wipe out Grace Maria.
The Nimbus is unstoppable. Ion, continue to engage. Target drones are all active. Feature those well outfitted.
All planes, cancel offensive and retreat. Garuda team, escort our planes out of there.
You gotta be kidding me. How are we supposed to defend that?
Their missiles are being guided by observation planes. Shoot them down and the attacks will subside. Each missile's estimated range of impact shows up on radar. The observation plane should be located right in the center of that range. Garuda team, shoot down those observation planes. You've got to hold out until all our forces have been safely evacuated. Talisman is locked on.
Their air force is starting to pull back too. Damn, my engine's been hit.
Garuda 1, Fox 2. Garuda 1 destroyed the target.
Ammunition here, Roger. Garuda 1, as we tag. Wilco, executing order. Fox 2, Fox 2. Target confirmed. Initiating attack here. I got additional info on the target now. Commencing attack. Advance!
Garuda 1, Fox 2. Radar lock. Target down.
Early aircraft are pulling out. Moving on now.
Ten observation craft remaining.
These guys are unmanned.
Our evacuating forces have taken damage. Those incoming missiles can be stopped if you shoot down their observation planes.
Nimbus ready to fire. Commence countdown.
Ghost Eye, have those planes evacuated yet?
Not yet. Evacuation's still not complete. Target down.
Explosions all the way here. Don't stop, you idiot! Do you want to die?
About half the observation planes have been destroyed. Keep your guard up.
We've lost more control of 1 and 04. Revising the coding of all speeds from 09.
Radar lock. Observation craft remaining.
Looks like you took a hit on your wings. You okay?
Target down. 4 craft remaining. Launching missile.
If only we could have shot him down at Grace Mary.
Almost made it. Hang in there.
Garuda 1 launched missile. Missile missed its target.
I can launch a marker drone. Roger that. Heading over right back. Roger that, Garuda 1. Time to attack.
2 observation craft remaining.
Give me control of 09. I'll pilot it manually. Launch 2.
Almost in effective range.
Initiating attack. Confirmed. Supporting the attack. Roger. Executing orders.
Talisman, Shamrock, just keep it up a little longer. All operation planes are down. Well done, Garuda team.
I guess we managed to pull it off. We've got to do something about those missiles, or there won't be a Grace Mary to get back to. You gotta be kidding me. How are we supposed to...
Thanks to your great cover, our troops were able to get through the peaks of Salumna with only minimal damage suffered. But our unit is within range of enemy cruise missile attacks for this mission. We're doing all we can to gather intelligence on the invasion and are mulling strategy options. Wait for the order to come in.
I feel so lucky to have met up with Ludmilla. We've run into so many checkpoints. I don't know what we would have done.
Then I'll give you the lowdown on our mission. Small unmanned aerial vehicles, cruise missiles, and heavy command cruisers are all closely related in terms of functionality and have been uncovered as the enemy's secret weapons by our analysis results. We have collected missile and small unmanned aerial vehicle samples as well as radar records, analyzed them, and came up with the following. First of all, the small unmanned aerial vehicles are operated from long distance and approach their intended targets to destroy them. In step 2, a special electronic signal inside of each small unmanned aerial vehicle is sent to a cruise missile for guidance. And for the final step, the cruise missile that was guided by a small unmanned aerial vehicle hits and destroys its attack target. That is how the enemy's cruise missile system operates. Small unmanned aerial vehicles and cruise missiles are both launched from the enemy's heavy command cruiser. Once launched, they are operated from the heavy command cruiser via remote control. Our Joint Chiefs of Staff have drawn up a plan to destroy the enemy's missile system based on these analysis results. In order to conquer the heavy command cruiser, a constant barrage of attacks from the air is absolutely indispensable. First, we need to get a springboard to launch our plan of attack. We're about to head south to retake Cavalia Air Force Base in San Loma. Our objective is to retake Cavalia's air facilities, then establish a front line to destroy the enemy's missile system. Once the runway is secured, we should have a decent chance at taking out the enemy's heavy command cruiser. Enemy forces will be heavily deployed from land, air, and sea. We'll be doing all we can to deal with them, but I'm sure they'll be ready for us. Success or failure of this mission will very likely have a significant effect on the war. Put everything you've got into this one.
Talisman, which plane? How about my weapon? Are we ready to fly with these planes?
Garuda team, time to take off.
Seize San Loma along with its military base and use that as a base of operations for attacking the enemy's heavy command cruiser.
Wipe out all enemies along the northwest route on your way to San Loma. Listen, Scatterhead. We're going to destroy all defense facilities along the bombing route.
Destroy all enemy ships dispatched offshore of San Loma. Take out any enemy forces obstructing our landing. We can't let them take the city.
San Loma's got some pretty tough defenses. Going it alone would be much too risky.
Guess we better lay off the stunts today.
Warlock Battalion is currently on its way to San Loma from the northwest. Take out any stowies in our path. Don't let your guard down. Area landing. Please start the guidance. Prepare to engage. This is Warlock. Enemy forces confirmed. We're breaking through.
Enemy's got a SAM locked onto you.
Enemy confirmed. Preparing to attack. Engaging with enemy craft with a PSO bird emblem. Never seen moves like this.
All planes in the partisan sweep operation. There's been a change of plan.
All planes,
Move
watch
to
out for
intercept all invading American aircraft.
The second platoon's been hit hard. How the hell did I end up on the front line?
Okay, Shamrock, roger that. I'm on the attack.
Radar lock. Anti-aircraft gun destroyed.
Speed team. Keep your eyes on the sky.
Fox 2.
This one's mine.
Enemy chopper shot down.
Enemy attacks are getting more accurate. I think they got a sharpshooter out there. Attention all platoons. Assume pincer attack formation at current speed.
Talisman is locked on.
Holy
shot down.
Careful now. The enemy has you on radar. A missile! Talisman, take evasive action!
Armored vehicle has been destroyed.
Enemy radar? Damn, with bad timing. This one's going down. You evaded my missile. American air support approaching. Spread out.
Enemy's got a SAM locked onto you!
Launching missile.
The Americans are driving us back. We need cover.
We've got a fire on port side. Watch this. Get out of the extinguishers.
The Austin has been damaged. They need additional support. Blizzard, roger.
How could that have missed? Watch out! They've got a lock on you from the ground!
Garuda 1, Fox 2.
Garuda 1, missile evaded!
Anti-aircraft gun destroyed. Garuda 1, Fox 2.
Warlock Battalion has arrived at the goal, awaiting further orders. Roger. All tanks, stand by. Fox 2. It's a bird emblem. We've got a chance with those guys watching over us up there. What are you talking about? They've got the enemy wrapped up in turmoil right now.
Garuda 1, that airspace is in a pretty bad situation at the moment. Run a quick sweep. Unmanned observation planes confirmed on radar. Be on alert for enemy cruise missiles.
What do you want us to do? Shoot down the observation planes or cover our allies?
Oh, if you can shoot down the unmanned observation planes, that'll minimize the damage to our forces. First wave of enemy cruise missiles incoming. Point of impact is showing up on radar. Stay clear of that area.
Flagship Marigold to Garuda team. We need you to take out that enemy fleet offshore and shoot down those escort planes. We can't hold up under this fire. Garuda team, we need your support.
Our fleet's taken too much damage. Don't let them take any more hits. Garuda 1, that airspace is dangerous. Don't invade San Loma until our forces arrive.
Enemy cruise missile just hit its target. Team Squad is in trouble. Evacuate all injured soldiers to safe ground.
I've got a lock!
Hawkins been hit. He just bailed out. Once they arrive, keep your eyes pointed at radar. Those Eslovakian escort planes are loaded up with anti-ship missiles.
Hey, where the hell did our forces go? We can't survive out here without them. Enemy forces have been reduced.
Commencing attack support. Watch out for enemy fire.
I've got enemy forces on radar. Hardly any, but they're there. Don't hold back. Kill all the invaders. Enemy forces have disappeared from radar. Garuda team, thanks for that outstanding cover. Standing by to attack in formation.
The target number of enemy planes are destroyed. Shift forces to the San Loma takeover operation.
The Americans are all moving at once. They're coming at us.
I have no idea where those missiles are coming from. Warlock Battalion, begin attacks on San Loma.
This is Marigold, commencing fire. We're the last
locked onto you!
Enemy facility taken out. Garuda 1, ESM is active.
What the hell's the guy doing? Where are the Nemesis missiles?
Garuda 1, report your damage. Missile was evaded.
Anti-aircraft gun destroyed.
Shamrock, box 2.
Looks good done here.
Enemy facility reduced to rubble.
Watch out, the enemy has a lock on you.
Lower the defensive line. We're gonna mow them down. Box 2, box 2.
Roger, I've got your back.
This is Max. The operation's proceeding as planned.
Garuda 1, you're approaching the return line. Maintain your current heading to return to base and resupply.
Garuda 1, begin landing. Garuda 1, you are cleared for takeoff.
Look out! Missiles closing in! I'm on fire! Ejecting! Taking evasive action. No missiles gonna get me.
Talisman is locked on.
Second Fleet Flagship Marigold. Roger that. Heading over to provide support. I have failed.
All planes, this is Windhover. Provide attack support to Garuda team. Tally ho, no one gets away from me. Fox 2, Fox 2.
Talisman, you're the key player on this mission. Don't get shot down.
Garuda 1 launched anti-ship missile. Enemy destroyer sent to the bottom.
Roger.
Target confirmed. Supporting Garuda team's attack. Target confirmed. Shifting to attack. Executing orders. Commencing attack.
All targets are almost destroyed. Garuda 1, take care of what's left.
Talisman, it's time to finish up. Lock on!
All targets are confirmed destroyed. We have taken over the city of San Loma.
Let's go out for a few when we get back. Drinks are on me tonight.
Talisman, we just took control of our airport from the Estavakians. The battle for Ameria has just begun.
Now that we've accomplished this mission, we have a good chance of taking out the heavy command cruiser. Excellent job.